and welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast, or simply have an interest in sport, you have come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, and as always, plenty of entertainment. It's hard to believe we are at the end of August and the schools are already back in action after the summer break. I'm not sure why it feels like in the blink of an eye the summer has passed. Maybe it's been the damp and drizzly weather in Ireland, but it certainly feels like the weeks are just flying by and somehow we've missed having both a summer and a summer break. I've certainly taken my foot off the gas with my training since the last episode of the podcast, and I do miss being on my bike, but I've luckily been gallivanting and announcing the past couple of weeks at IRONMAN Sweden in Kalmar and in Switzerland at the Swiss Epic. My first time working both events, and they were, in a word, epic. I've never experienced a finish line like IRONMAN Sweden before. It was simply superb. The crowds, the energy, the vibe, the atmosphere all around the city. It was just wow. And that finish line was incredible. As for the Swiss Epic mountain bike race, you couldn't but be wowed by the stunning scenery of the Swiss Alps every single time you turned around. Add in the exciting racing and a week of great weather, it was a recipe for a brilliant event. I eagerly brought my swim gear with me on the trip, but alas, never actually made it into the water. Other than the natural ice bath at the foot of the mountain on day 4 of the Swiss Epic in Chur, when it was over 30 degrees and I was literally melting on the finish line. I did, however, manage to get a few runs under my belt in Kalmar and in the Swiss Alps. I promise I will never complain about running uphill again in Ireland after my final 5k run in Davos on Saturday evening. My lungs and my legs were on fire. My body had still not acclimated to the altitude, and as for the hills, well, they were interesting to say the least. I loved it really though, and hopefully we'll get some training in this week before heading away again. Fingers crossed for some nice biking weather this week. This year, September is my busiest month. I'm hosting 2 conferences next week, the National Trail Conference in Leitrim on Tuesday and the Sport Innovator Conference in Paris on Thursday. I then have 2 Ironman 70.3 races, the first in Knokke-Heist in Belgium and then Weymouth in England. In between these 2 events, I'll be announcing the ALG 5k in Dublin for Athletics Ireland and then the first of the Ironman World Championship events of the year, the Women's Ironman World Championship race in Nice on the 22nd of September. Then it's home to Galway for the Galway International Oyster Festival at the end of September before heading to Kona in October. It's all go and I am so looking forward to the excitement and fun of it all. Add in the fact that the Paralympics start this week. It's going to be another busy few weeks of sport. I know I'm going to be glued to the coverage when I can catch it, and luckily I will be in Paris for a short time next week to witness the action firsthand. Make sure you're popping over to the Try Talking Sport website where Emma will be keeping the site updated on the Irish in action at the Paralympics, as well as sharing updates from the action across swim, bike and run at home and abroad over the coming weeks. Best of luck to Team Ireland in Paris. I've had a number of the athletes on the podcast and I can't wait to see them achieve their goals and dreams on the biggest sporting stage in the world. Now, before we dive into this episode, as always, don't forget to pop over to the Nuasan website to pick up some goodies, whether it's a treat for yourself or someone else. From body wash and moisturiser to bath salts, foot spray or my favourite CBD muscle gel, you can get 15% discount online using the code TTS15 on www.nuasan.com. We also have a 10% discount on precision hydration products. Pop over to the link on my Instagram bio or pop me a message for the link and the discount code. And if you are racing abroad in the coming weeks, be sure to book your bike transport with Team Truck using the code TTS35. We'll unlock a €35 discount on your online booking on www.teamtruck.eu. Now, let's dive into this month's episode. Youri Keulen is a 25-year-old professional triathlete from the Netherlands. The eldest of triplets, he has been paving a path in sport from a young age. First as a footballer, then as a runner, where he claimed victory as a 3-time national 800-metre champion in his teens. Picked up by a triathlon talent ID programme in the Netherlands on the back of his running and biking ability, his dream of becoming an Olympian never materialised. And shortly after Tokyo 2020, he parted ways with the Dutch national team. Switching distances to take on his first middle distance race at Ironman 70.3 Maastricht in 2021, he was the fastest overall age grouper on the day. A few weeks later, he made his pro debut at Challenge Peguera Mallorca and came 5th. Since then, he has gone from strength to strength with some standout performances, including winning Ironman 70.3 Rapperswil Jona in 2022. He finished in 6th place at last year's Ironman 70.3 World Championship and followed that up with a win at Challenge Peguera Mallorca and Challenge Barcelona. Earlier this year, he came 4th at the T100 in Miami before a stellar performance saw him break the tape to win the Singapore T100, which changed the game for the young athlete and catapulted him into the triathlon spotlight globally. Youri shares insight into his life as a professional athlete, the importance of surrounding yourself with people who have the same vision and drive for you as you have for yourself, and also what his plans and aspirations are not only to the end of 2024, but beyond the next few months. A wise mind on young shoulders, Youri is excited about his future in the sport and is committed to being not only the best athlete he can be, but also the best triathlete in the world, whilst also hoping that his sporting endeavours will inspire future generations of young athletes at home and abroad. With a very special connection to Ireland through his girlfriend, former professional cyclist Imogen Cotter, Youri loves coming to Ireland and indeed loves the game of hurling, especially when Clare win. Now, go grab a cuppa and enjoy the show. Youri Keulen, welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you, and it was in Switzerland at Ironman 70.3 Rapperswil Jona. It's taken us a couple of weeks to get the podcast on, but what a journey and adventure you have been on over the past couple of weeks. Where are you today for the recording of the podcast?
So I'm in Girona in mine and Imogen's new apartment. So it's like we moved in 2 weeks ago, and like bit by bit, the furniture comes in every day. So as we speak, Imogen is getting the couch together now. I have to say she's a very strong. So I'm happy to have her next to me. And actually, it's funny because now I'm speaking to the Irish audience, and actually she's doing that all the time, so the roles are a bit reversed at the moment. So yeah, I'm excited to be in the podcast, and yeah, it's nice that we have a new apartment now, and actually it's quiet and cool, and we have air conditioning as well, which is super important in the summer. I think close to 40 degrees every day. It depends a bit, like for example, I do my run sessions in the morning at 7. And I try to do my evening sessions like a bike or a run very late in the evening. And then in between, I try to swim. But sometimes the bike to the pool is already very tough, or getting groceries around the corner is already, when you come back, you have to change your t-shirt. So, but on the other hand, that's where we signed up for. And that is a nice challenge as well.
I love it. Well, listen, we're going to jump straight into having a chat. You've been racing and training for quite a while, but you really burst onto the scene. Really, the T100 Singapore this year in 2024 in April was absolutely massive. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But lots of people may have not known your name before that, but they definitely know your name now. But where did Youri start taking up triathlon, or when, or how, or what's the background to your life in sport? Because my understanding is that you were quite a good football player.
Yeah, so when people ask me that question, I always like start to laugh, because I've been born a triplet with my brother and sister at 27 weeks. And we were all 3 less than 1 kilogram of body weight, which is quite a crazy story. The more I talk about it, the more I figure out like, oh gosh, actually it is weird or it is very special that we all 3 are healthy. So I think as every little kid in the Netherlands, I started playing football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, with my friends. And I was quite a little active kid when I was younger. Like I was at school, I always my favorite class was sports, and my last favorite class was the one where you had to sit the most on your chair. So I was always very active, and then I started playing football, and actually I was quite good at it. So when you become a bit older, like let's say around the age of 10, then the pro football clubs come and watch your games, and then they see if they're interested in you as a young talent, and then you get kind of in that academy pathway that they create at a very young age already. And I had some nice moments, but as well some unlucky moments, like just not making the cut of that year, or just getting selected too late. So the selection process was already going on. But actually I just figured out that football, I liked it, but it was not my ultimate goal to become a pro football player. And on the other hand as well, I think the competition for the position that I was playing was just way too heavy, and I was just not good enough. But what I could do was run quite quick. So next to the football club, literally next to the football club, was an athletics club. And I just started training with them. And then I remember my first time that I thought like, okay, I'm actually good at this. There was one kid at the club and they said, oh, no one can beat him in the sprint. And I had no idea how to start out of blocks. We did a 60-meter sprint and I beat him. And then I was like, okay, maybe this is fun. And then you kind of go through that pathway as well with the athletics federation. And I became national champ on the 800 meters a couple of times and on the cross country for my age. And so as probably every federation in every country, the funding is based on the Olympic Games for the upcoming 4 years. Well, we were not that good in athletics back then as we are now. So we had kind of no funding, but I was training under the national team and on the county teams, and they had no funding anymore. So that was for me a point as well. I was in school and I really enjoyed it, but I was kind of missing a little touch in it. Like I was really enjoying it, but I was not like thinking like, okay, this is it. But then I did a duathlon and I won that one, just a local one. And then kind of the ball started like rolling. And then I signed up for a talent day at our federation, and I was selected for the national team based on my running and bike results. I could not swim at all. I was, I think, 15 years old and I was swimming 7 minutes on the 400 free, which is, if I see where I'm now, it's kind of impossible how I did it, but I did it. So I kind of started working towards, getting to swim faster. I was a good runner and I was an okay biker, but like, I lost 4 minutes on the leaders on a 500 or 600 meter swim open water. Like that was just impossible for me to run and bike back. So I started developing on swimming, and then in 2016, I think after Rio, the grand final was in Cozumel, and I was the only junior qualified. So all the guys who were selected for the federation as well, like I just learned how to swim. I still lost 1.5 minutes on 750 meters, but I was strong enough to bring Alex Yee back to the front pack. And then I was like, oh, I'm bringing Alex Yee back to the front pack. So actually his gold medal is because of me. I brought him back in 2016 at the grand final. No, but all jokes aside, like, and that was actually when I thought, okay, this triathlon career could be something. Then I went through the selections of the federation as well. And then the year before Tokyo, I really tried to make my name in the team relay. But I think, first of all, I was maybe not, well, I think I was good enough. I just was trained wrong. If I see what I'm doing now compared to what I did then, we were like with 10 athletes in the federation and we all had the same schedule based on one guy. And for that guy, we were like kind of working horses next to him. But what we did figure out was that I was very trainable. So I was 18, let's say between 18 and 20 years old. I was going on altitude camp, but I was training the most hours of most of the guys. So, and I was responding on it, not the way that we hoped or what was needed, but I could actually survive the training weeks. And that after Tokyo, I decided, okay, I want to break up with the federation. I'm not happy with how things were going there, and I didn't really find myself developing as much as I needed or wanted in the philosophy of the coaches. So we were on a training camp in Namibia on altitude, and then I met an ex-pro cyclist who was preparing for the world hour record at that time. Well, then the big C came around, so everyone had to stop doing basically everything they were doing. But that friend, he's now actually one of my best friends. We were sharing a room for 3 weeks and we had like the most amazing time. Like we were having so much fun, and he saw me struggling as well in the federation system. And he always said to me, okay, when I think you're ready and you say you're ready, you want to move on, I'm going to bring you in contact with coaches that I think could help you further. But I don't want to rush you. You just need to make that decision for yourself. And then at the end of 2021, so like now halfway 2021, I was completely done with the federation and the coaching. And I wouldn't say we went our parts in a good way, but not in a bad way either. I just was really not happy with how things were going, and it kind of came to an end. I signed up for my first half distance triathlon as an age grouper, and I won it in Maastricht, which is the place I've been born. And then 2 months later, I signed up for my first pro race in Mallorca. and I got fifth with a 108 off the bike. So then I was like, all right, okay. So let's say if I invest a winter into half distance triathlon, let's see how far I can get. And then I got fourth in Clash Miami after winter, like I think 1.5 minutes behind Sam Long. So that was actually when it kicked off. So I had a new coach at that moment. That was Carlos Prieto. He was the old coach of Javier Gomez. And I had some people that were advising me. And of course, my best friend, Kai Reus. If people don't know him, Google him. He has an amazing story. World champion juniors on the bike and so on. But Google him. It's yeah, I think I couldn't have a better mentor in that way, especially at that moment. And he brought me actually to the team that we have now. We have a group chat, and at this moment there are 5 people in it, and we find our expertise from people outside of that core team. So, for example, especially in these moments, I really use a nutritionist to make sure that I'm eating enough. Then he comes in, brings his knowledge into the team, and then how should I say, and then when I need him, I bring him in. But it's the same, like I see my mental coach every 2 weeks. I think it's a super important part, but as well, like a physio or an aero coach, like someone who's based on aerodynamics, or if I'm feeling under the weather, we're going to see if there's a doctor around that could help me test my bloods, or someone that does my bike fit, my mechanic, like basically all I've been doing for the past 3 years. And as well, my team is just find the best people in the business and then see if they want to work with us.
But you have your own core little team, and then you bring in
Yeah.
experts for the little gaps maybe that might be there. And that's hugely important, Youri, as well, that your team are constantly learning from people outside of your circle so that you can get better and also they can get better as well.
Yeah, but actually it's funny, at the moment after Singapore, people were asking if they could be part of the team. That was for me really like, all right, okay, this is very cool. So yeah, I work with, so actually the core guy or the core person who is like, I don't want to say most involved, but like the structure in my training is coming from him. His name is Costa Pultevets. He's doing my running. He has a speed skating background. Then my bike coach is Guido Vroome. He is working with a lot of mountain bikers at the Olympic Games at the moment and a lot of triathletes. But his training philosophy is really based on you need to get as strong as possible on the bike to maintain your effort for 17.3 on Ironman. And then I have a swim coach. He's from Girona himself, but he works a lot with the junior swimmers. Like these kids are like 15, 16 years old and they swim under 16 minutes on the 1500 free. Like, wow. I actually started working with him, about a year ago, and he does my swimming. And then I have Kai Reus is then the guy who's actually the glue behind all those guys. So he knew Guido, he knew Costa, he met Fran, and we are like, if one of us is not happy with the decision, then it's not going on. And we are like based, like we make plans, we actually figure out like what is the best way for me. And Kai knows me more personally on a deeper level. So he actually knows like, okay, on paper, this is the best decision to do, but I know how Youri actually works. So maybe we should not do that. Then next to that, I have a management, Santawa Group. And my personal agent is David, and we actually created a bromance. So yeah, I feel
feel about that.
Yeah, sometimes she's saying, "Oh, who are you texting?" I say, "Yeah, I've been texting David the whole day already. We're sending funny videos to each other." Like, so yeah, I'm super happy, and in a way as well, like yeah, maybe blessed that I have the people around me that are around me. Like they're all kind of fit in my character and my well-being as an athlete. Like no one will ever tell me, oh, you should start training, because first of all, they don't need to tell me because I'm quite motivated myself. But on the other hand, they know as well with like they can bring their message across different, but that's because they are 20, like not 24/7, but let's say 27 with me involved and asking me how I'm doing, tracking my recovery, and really try to think outside of the box. So in the end of the day, for me, it's only showing up on training and do what they plan. And then I need to, of course, think about other, but it's really triggering me to think outside of the box as well. So first it was like, oh, Yuri, maybe you should start talking with someone on a mental level. But now it's like, I have the feeling that I need to talk with my mental coach because I have this and this and this and that on my mind. They never have to say, oh, you should go to the physio, because they implemented that slowly in the process that I know now, okay, I need to go to the physio or anything like that. So yeah, that's a bit the story of my team so far.
Yeah, it's super. And I suppose what it kind of indicates as well is the importance of that athlete coach relationship, and that it being a partnership as opposed to a coach telling an athlete what to do. And it's more like a relationship as opposed to the athlete versus the coach, and having that dialogue and them understanding your life in triathlon, but also outside of it.
Yeah, so my mom always gave me a sentence that I use quite a lot in my day-to-day life. And it's like, if I meet people, it's like, do you want to have Christmas with them? And then if the answer is yes, then you should invest in the relationship. If the answer is no, you should really consider how far do you want to let those people in.
Your mum
And
is
with
a
these
smart
people,
lady.
yeah,
Your mum is a
but she's a
very smart
very,
lady.
very strong woman. But actually now with my coaches, it's like, I don't want them at Christmas, I want them at my wedding. So like, you know what I mean? Like it's on a so deeper, like they really their desire is as much as mine to become the best athlete in the world, and they want to be part of that. And yeah, that's something so cool. Like, especially if I came from the federation and what I have now, like it's constantly developing, and I'm super happy that I have the ability to have those amazing people and those world-class coaching and professionals around me.
Where does your drive or your passion to be so successful in sport, where does that come from? You've mentioned there that your mum is a really strong lady. We've said she's a very smart lady, but where does that drive and passion come from? I know you're probably a bit of a fighter yourself, having been quite a small little baby from a very young age, having to fight your way into the world and survive. So I'm sure, way back that probably is part of your DNA. But what now in this moment drives you to
So
be the best athlete that you can be?
I was actually funny because I was talking with my mom about it 2 weeks ago. They were cleaning up the basement and they found like all like school reports and stuff like that. So as a little kid, it's not that I'd grown, but I still have ADHD. But as a little kid, I always heard like, no, you can't do that. No, it's not good. And I had quite, I don't want to say difficulties with learning, but it didn't go as smooth as the most kids in my class. So I always, and with my brother and sister as well, even from the moment we were born, we had to fight for everything. So I think that is such an important character. I say that like a character
Age, maybe?
that you get from the moment you're like, I think nothing shapes you as much as being a child. So like if something happens in your childhood, positive or negative, you will always see that back when you're maturing. So that constant fight of like, I need to fight or I need to work very hard to pass this exam is really benefiting me now. Because sometimes my coaches say like, we can throw you against the wall and you keep coming back in a positive way. And I think that is really where my desire, like my motivation comes from. Like, I really want to know how good can I actually be at this. Like, I know I want to be the best triathlete in the world, and I know for that I need to make all this, like, it's not even sacrifice because they don't feel like that. But I believe as well that I've been put on this globe and I survived or birth to be an athlete. Because ask me any mathematical question and I have difficulties answering. I'm not stupid, but like I'm not having that kind of brain capacity to get a Nobel Prize, or like I never had in my childhood the choice of like, oh, but he's very good in school, so he could get actually a stable and financial stable job in the future. It was always like, I just want to finish school so I can do sports.
Was that always the way you were? That sport was the thing that got you out of bed in the morning as opposed
Yeah,
to learning
yeah,
and to school? Like that's what
yeah,
drove you on.
yeah, 100%. So like, I always wanted to win. I always wanted to be the best. I always wanted to be like, I was doing little competitions with the kids in the street who could run the fastest around the block. And I kept on going until I won from the guys who were 5 years older than me. So I really believe that, yeah, as I said, like that I should be an athlete in a way. And it took some time until we found the right sport, but now I truly believe, because I can train 35 hours a week, that it is the right sport, because I'm actually getting tired now on the couch. So I think my desire is really like, I really want to be the best in the world, and I'm not afraid to leave everything for that. So I think, yeah, that's where it comes from.
And when you say best in the world, are we talking best in the world at middle distance racing, at full distance racing?
I think I want to leave, like, let's say what you see now with Jan or Christian, like when they retire, I want to be an inspiration for kids. Like, I want kids to go to school and say, no, 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 I want to be Youri Keulen today. Like, I really want to leave. I don't want to say, yeah, maybe it's a legacy, or like a leave something in the sport, like give something back to the community. Or yeah, I have the same when I'm racing now against Alistair. Like, that guy is such a legend in the sport. Like, I wish I could be like him when I retire.
And yet you're still relatively new to that middle, and obviously haven't gone to the long distance side of things yet. So you've achieved so much already within the sport of triathlon, and have a really strong positive trajectory ahead of you for the sport and where your career would develop. So in an ideal world, how would your year this year, for example, I know you were sixth last year at the Ironman 70.3 World Championship. Then you went on to the T100 in Singapore, which is, huge as well. So two massive results for you. Second a couple of weeks ago in France as well, amongst many other races and results, including some challenge podiums, a couple of other Ironman 70.3 podiums. But if you look at, we're now in August of 2024, what's the goal for this year? And maybe even into 2025, what's the plan?
So the goal for this year, always so in December, we had a chat about the possibility for me for getting a T100 contract. In the end, that didn't come true because of several reasons, which is fine, but that made it a bit difficult to plan in January. So normally you sit around and make a plan with your coaches, and this is the races that we're going to try to bring our A game. This is the races that build up to that. But for me, that was not possible. Like, I really wanted to be part of the T100, but I had no idea if I could, because if all 20 athletes race, I can be number one in the world. But if I'm not with the 20 athletes on the list, then yeah, I can't race. So we really tried to see, like, okay, what are the most important races that we think we could race, and then make the races that I'm 100% sure of that I could race. Well, at the beginning of the year, the main goal always been 70.3 Worlds. And that hasn't changed. The only thing is I needed a bit more time to qualify, but in the end I qualified. But that Miami, my fourth place in Miami and my win in Singapore came along, that was not something that it's difficult to say, because you always say like, oh, I'm going to win this race. But then it actually happens, and then you're like, wait, I actually did it. So the main goal still remains 70.3 Worlds. On the other hand, because now with the T100 coming in, being a race winner, being fourth in the classification now after 4 races, I would be very stupid not to target those races as well. So if you look at the season planning, the grand finals 2 weeks before 70.3 Worlds, but it's somewhere in the Middle East. It is possible to combine those. So that is mostly the target of the year now. So everything that we do needs to lead up towards 70.3 Worlds in the grand final.
It makes the season very long, doesn't it? Having the Worlds so close to the end of the year. I mean, it's the 14th and 15th of December. Even for the age group athletes, like, it does extend out the season. Amazing place. It's going to be an amazing race, but it does require athletes to keep focused and keep their eye on the prize right to the end of the year, when most athletes, pros included, I imagine, are taking a little bit of downtime in December, maybe even November into December.
Yeah, but as well financially, yeah. If you come from Europe, making such a trip at the end of the year is difficult.
So how do you manage that in Youri, just in terms
the
of
financial part, or the
realistic part of being a professional athlete? You have to travel with the Pro Series, you have to travel with the T100, you travel to races. There's that huge pressure on athletes as well, especially if they're not making an awful lot of money.
Well, one of the best opportunities I got was actually bringing in the management that I really feel they fit to me and I fit to them. So that made it for me at the beginning of the year a bit more secure. So I had some contracts, but I made sure that I at least could pay the bills for the upcoming months. Because before that, And even until, let's say, Miami in March, I was constantly getting my parents' credit card for everything because I had literally no money in the bank. And constantly I was having a call with my parents and said like, hey, mom, that I made 8 grand at the 70.3 Worlds. That is my most prize money I made so far. I don't know when they're going to pay, but when they pay, I promise you I pay it back. And it was constantly like, yeah, but don't worry about it now, but we do need it back. Like before the management jumped in, and actually before Miami, it was for me really surviving. Like Imogen helped me out a lot. My parents helped me out a lot. Family helped out a lot constantly to like they believed so much in me that I could keep going, that the train could keep going. Next to that, I had a very nice foundation behind me that I have already for 4 years, but that would stop at the end of 2024. So I knew that I could manage this year if I did not do anything crazy. Well, the good thing is, I think to be a pro athlete at the moment is a good time. To be a pro athlete in the T100 is an amazing time. And then to be a pro athlete in the T100 winning a race is like a very nice time. So I got fourth in Miami, which helped me covering the cost to Singapore. And then I won Singapore. And from that moment, it was for me like I could finally breathe because I was kind of out of the mom and dad, can you please, like, can I use your credit card for this flight or can I use your credit card for that flight? Like at that moment, it was kind of like, okay, finally, like I can pay my rent normally on time. I don't have to ask my coach if I can pay the bill at the end of the year. So it was like it was constantly filling one gap with the other, but on the end, you still want to get the performance rate as high as possible. So I knew that I needed to perform to make my life a better life. So again, you come back to what is my desire. It's like fighting, and that is constantly fighting as well. On the other hand, I've heard that New Zealand doesn't have to be that expensive. It's only the flights, but there are a lot of homestay options. So that makes it for us as pro athletes a bit cheaper. But I have a lot of respect for people with like a family next to it and a full-time job and then want to do an Ironman, go to Hawaii or go to Taupo at the end of the year with the whole family. Like I truly have so much respect for those people because yeah, for me it's like they say, oh, you're a pro athlete, but on the other hand, like, but we have nothing else next to that as well. Like this is our profession for a reason. But some guys that have a full-time job and have kids and they go like under 9 or under 10 hours on the Ironman. Like I think it's amazing me as much as we amaze them at a race.
I think that's quite special, actually, that you are
Yeah.
recognizing how good and bad you have it in one sense. You know, that there's peaks and troughs, you know, you've got money, you haven't got money, you've got money, you haven't got money.
Do we
And
have
then,
it bad? Yeah, the decision I make to make my life this way. Because on the other hand, I could work as well. Like I can go into a supermarket tomorrow and say, do you guys have a job for me? And I could start the day after. And then I have a stable income. But I really make the decision to live my life like this. And that has consequences, positive and negative. And the better I perform, the less financial stress I will have. But with that thing, with performing better, there comes another stress added on that.
I
It
suppose I
is,
didn't mean it in the sense of it being bad. What I
yeah.
meant was that I was actually giving you a compliment and that I was
Oh,
I
thank
was
you.
saying how actually it was really good that you were looking to the guys that are succeeding in the sport, that you were admiring those people who had a very different lifestyle to you. It's just
Yeah.
you, it's just Imogen, whereas some of these athletes have the full-time jobs, plus they have a partner and kids. And it's refreshing to hear it that you
I think
admire what they're achieving.
people will set a goal that is in a way possible to reach, but very, very difficult, and then get it is for me something like, for example, we met a guy at 17.3 Mallorca. My mom loves to socialize with people. It's absolutely crazy. And especially if she can say, oh, my son is Youri Keulen. Do you know him? Like she met a guy before the race and he was doing his first 70.3 ever. He just literally rented a bike a week ago. He did a couple of spins on it and he finished it. And now he signed up for a second one. And we still are in contact. Like he's asking me advice. And I always love that when people reach out like from their self, like, hey, Youri, I've seen you doing that. Could you give me any advice in how can I get better in this? Can I get better in that? Like for example, my agent is doing Ironmans as well. He has a full-time job and he's still getting his work in. Like he works, let's say, what is it, from 8 till 8 in the evening, and he still gets swim sessions and bike sessions in. Like, to be honest, like compared to that, I have a very easy life, and I can't imagine me doing that like ever again. So sometimes when I have difficult training sessions or things are not going as smooth as it should be going, I always remember like, why are you complaining? Like you literally wake up at 7 or 8 in the morning, you do your sessions, and you don't have to worry about anything else. Like, how horrible would it be to wake up at 4 o'clock before work to get my sessions in, then be the whole day in the office and then do my sessions again? Like, shut up. So I really, really have a lot of admiration for the people who do it. Try to have a pro lifestyle next to all the things that
Yeah.
come with a normal life, because our life is not normal in that way.
We kind of went off on a different direction there to where we kind of started. So coming back to racing towards the end of the season, you might be able to couple up a race in the Middle East and then head to New Zealand. Is that the plan for the rest of the year? Yeah. And will they be the only two races you'll do now?
No, so I will try to see if I can get in all the T100 races, but I only try to target them. If not, I'm not sure if I will race. And then the question is, if I race, I really try to stay close at home. So, for example, that race in Les Sables, we can go there on Thursday, race on Saturday, be home on Sunday. Financially, that is a bit better. And on the other hand as well, like if you have such a big, long travel coming up, and the plan that we actually made towards New Zealand, I will be home like very, very small amounts from October on. So I really try to kind of save my energy a bit and use it wisely on race day when it's really needed.
And talk to us about Singapore, because that was, I mean, it was amazing. I'm sure you've had so many people talk to you about it, but you know, you crossed the finish line. It was just incredible to watch you cross the finish line, but you gave absolutely everything. Every single ounce of you was given to that race.
Yeah, basically that's right. I got fourth in Miami and my coach was with me after the finish. I was happy. I was like, it's not enough. Like, I feel there is more. What we figured out in the years here in Girona, that I'm pretty good in the heat. And actually, the more extreme it gets, the better I perform in a way. So what we normally see with athletes is when they perform in the heat, you kind of give some, how should I say, like you kind of lose, you kind of lose strength in performance, and that can go up to 20%, 10%, but like you can adapt quite well to the heat. Some better than others, and then you have sweat rate and everything. Very technical story. So we kind of came up with a plan to go to a warm place, actually warmer than Singapore, to do 10-day heat preparation camp towards Singapore, because I know, and that's still the case, as a wildcard, you kind of need to take every shot as it gets. So you can't come there underperforming or under preparing. You really need to like be on top of your game all the time, and all the opportunities you get, you really have to take them. So the moment we figured out that I was racing in Singapore, we went all in. With all the data that we got from Miami, we start working in Singapore. Then we looked at the race the year before and used that data and implemented that in our training. And then slowly, when you kind of start building that puzzle, and especially on location, you kind of start figuring out like, all right, this is what I can do on race day. And then when you look at the race the year before, you actually figure out, okay, this could be enough for the podium. And then we were talking about it like on dinner with my coach. Like, it was just me and him. We actually started chatting, and I had a feeling already that whole camp, when I started daydreaming on a long set in the pool, I was always dreaming about me crossing the finish line, and not me in the race, but just me crossing the finish line with the banner up. And I had that special feeling that whole camp. Like, I was so at calm and ease in that lead up to that race, that I actually came in Singapore and I had to put on a sweater because I got cold. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Like, I was like, literally, guys came to me and said like, why are you wearing a hoodie? I was like, it's fresh in the hotel. So when that was going on, and I really knew, okay, I'm up for something. Then with the nutritionist, we made a plan for my nutrition. And then I missed 5 bottles on the bike, which that video went absolutely viral still. It's crazy. I show up on every meme page about, like, especially now around the Olympics, and we just executed the plan as we had before. And then, so what happened closer to the finish line is I just got dehydrated, and that was because they were giving half full cups of water, but the moment you squeeze them, the water was out. So I was basically, let's say you need 2 liters of water. I was not even close to half a liter of water the whole run course. And that was what kind of, like, yeah, broke my performance towards the end. So the last 500 meters, like when you're up to winning something so big, like when you run and you have 3 people in a line spectating, the first person says you're 1 minute 10 in the lead. The second person says you're 40 seconds in the lead, and the last person says you're 2 minutes in the lead. So you have the whole race, except from your coach, who is once every lap, no idea what's going on. So I didn't want to ease off. Like, I was like, I just need to go full gas until the line. And like, when I came around the corner, I don't know, in that video, you see me even looking around because I still thought that Sam Long was coming around the corner. When you're up to something so big, you just want to get it, like, have it. And then, yeah, like the last 2 or 3 minutes before the finish line, I kind of blurred out. I was just, yeah, I had big glasses on, but if I took those glasses off, my eyes were like rolling in the back of my head. And then I crossed the finish line. I can remember me grabbing the tape. After that, I can't remember anything. So then they took me to a ice bath, which I was 20 minutes in. They gave me 1.5 liter of IV. And then I really had to go to the hospital, because when you go from such a high core body temperature to directly to a low body core temperature, when you're very tired, your heat adaptation system is not working very well. So I was from getting kind of fevers to shivering from colds. So they wanted to make sure that I was in a safe and good environment to actually sit it out, because eventually after an hour you'll be fine. And then my coach was actually looking at me. He was like, "You will be fine. Don't worry. I've seen worse." And then I got pictures from me in the ice bath, and I was literally looking like a pregnant lady giving birth. Like, I was laying there in the ice bath, completely in a different world. And yeah, they took me out of the ice bath, and then my coach gave me a kiss on my forehead and said, "Mate, you're the T100 champ." And then I went to the hospital, and then he was on his way to the airport again. I came to my hotel, and the T100 trophy was laying on the bed next to the anti-doping control.
Okay. Oh, you still have to go do anti-doping after the race.
No, actually,
wow.
they said, "Oh, do you want to?" I said, "That is not even a question. I won that race. I want anti-doping." So I had the anti-doping. So I came home in the hotel. I think we finished at 7 or something. I came back in the hotel around 10. Then the room service was closed at 10:30, so I had no food. And then I think the anti-doping left around 3 o'clock in the night. I had to wake up at 6, did some interviews, and at 8 I was at the airport. So yeah, that kind of whole, the race itself, and then 3 days after was a complete blur.
The race was amazing, but actually what I'd love to know is, and I know we met in Switzerland and he finished 14th in Rapperswil. Yeah. Such a fantastic achievement and a positive outcome for so many reasons, yet it must have taken such a toll on your body, Youri. Yeah. And
pay the price. You pay the price eventually. And maybe it's not even that much physical. Like what I felt in training after, I just couldn't hurt myself anymore. I was doing my efforts, and I was doing my normal work that I was doing, like, let's say 2 weeks after the race, when I had a calm and stable environment again to train. But my body was just not, like, when you have those efforts and you really go to the top, like, it's really like getting kind of gritty at that moment. And I just couldn't anymore. Like, my legs were not feeling it anymore. Like, and I had the feeling that all the sessions I did were not coming. Like, I was not responding on them anymore. In the end, I kind of felt that I should not race Mallorca 4 or 3 weeks after Singapore. And I did. And that kind of made that I did not finish in Mallorca, and then a bad result in Switzerland.
I wouldn't say it was a bad result, but it definitely wasn't the result that you would have liked.
In Switzerland?
Switzerland, yeah.
Well, to be honest, I just finished because I was wearing number 1 and I really loved that place. But I think, on the other hand, that was kind of, well, the moment that the time changed for me. I remember I came home at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening the day after. and I flew at 10 o'clock to Ireland just to have a week of holiday with Imogen. And that was really for me like, yeah, I turned off my phone and I was like not available anymore. Because when you win something so big, or like let's say for me, in my opinion, something big as well, like if you see now, like with the T100 in London or San Francisco, like there was always another big sport event going on around that week. There was nothing, not 2 weeks before, not 2 weeks after Singapore. So like all the media kind of jumped on me, and then especially after that finish line, like it was quite a story to tell. So like when you do something like that, people expect you to be directly mature at the new level that you come at. Like it's like a steps, like a ladder or step, and you actually reach the new step, and then people think like, oh, I'm maturing at that level. But for me as well, like let's say 10 doors open that I never expected that would open after, and I had to deal with that as well. Like I had to deal with pressure, I had to deal with media, I had to deal with potential sponsor opportunities, I had to deal with even getting back in my rhythm and train again, and just keep my head down and prepare for the next race, and not bringing what happened in Singapore always with me. But as well, like I went to the pool and people wanted a picture with me, and like even if it's maybe 1 or 2 pictures in a month, it's still something that I needed to get used to. And all of a sudden I was not Youri Keulen anymore. I was Youri Keulen, the T100 Singapore winner. And maybe as well because I didn't had the medal ceremony and I didn't had the interviews after the race, that it felt for me a bit like I didn't had the closure of that race. So sometimes what we really agree with in the team is like, if we have a good or a bad session, that is there. That is on that mountain, or that is on that trail that you did there. You left that there. Don't bring it home. So when you come home and you walk into the door, it's like, okay, you're going to cook your dinner now and you're going to start tomorrow again.
But difficult, Youri, when your body is reacting in a way that you don't want it to react after such a huge performance. I mean, you're talking there about not being able to hit the numbers in your training sessions. So obviously it's the impact of the effort that you went to in Singapore. And thankfully it's turned around now. It came second in France and stamped that ticket to New Zealand. You say you came to Ireland for a week with Imogen. How did you break the cycle of, one, physically not being able to hit those numbers, but two, mentally get over everything you've just talked about?
So best thing you can do is just turn off your phone. That's the first thing. Because after Singapore, there was a lot of media as well about things that I had even no idea about. Like all of a sudden I got offered a contract, which is until today not true. I'm not offered a contract. I still have to wait for my wild cards, if I get them or not. Like in the end, if all 20 athletes race or not, I'm not racing in the upcoming T100 race. So that's one thing. Second thing is I really okay, I know you're gonna love this. I really found my peace in Ireland in a way. So like I have the feeling that things just go as they go in Ireland. I remember we went to a hurling match. Couldn't get my head around the fact that we were standing, my girlfriend Imogen, she's from Clare, and Clare was playing Limerick. Couldn't imagine that we were standing there with our yellow and blue jerseys in between the green jerseys from Limerick, and everything was fine, because in the Netherlands that is not done. Like football hooligans are crazy. So like I just started to do like nice things, like actually just go on my bike. Sometimes just don't turn on your hat unit, or don't turn on your watch. Just go for a run and like kind of start processing what actually happened. And I still feel that I'm still processing some things that happened in Singapore, because yeah, it really came, like as I said at the beginning, you always hope for that and you always think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win. But when it actually happens, it's like, oh, and now I'm actually having it. Like, whoa, what's going on?
It changes
So
everything. It does change
yeah,
everything, doesn't it?
yeah, but that's what you try not to do, like not to make it change everything, but in the end it still kind of does. So I really try to like go to a place that I'm like, I feel quiet and at ease. So I brought my bike to Ireland. I did on Wednesday, I did the Clare League on the bike. I
Did
was
you win?
sprinting with a no, I was sprinting with a guy from 21 and another guy from 30 and another guy from 40 who had a full-time job, and I got fourth in the sprint and I was angry about it. I was like, okay, now I'm actually getting that fire back again. And the other thing is like talk a lot with the people around you, and especially with like professionals in their job. So search for mental help if you need it. Like, a mental help always sounds so heavy, but sometimes just a chat with someone to check in on how you actually doing without that other person having any double agenda or any double, like, that person wants anything from you. Just that she or he wants to know, like, how are you actually doing, just really made a big difference. Because as well, for my whole family, things changed. All of a sudden they turn on Eurosport and my head is on it. I get videos from people that are watching the Eurosport's commercial break and I'm on it. Like, for them as well, they go to the supermarket and people say, hey, I saw your son in Eurosport. Like, for them, things are changing as well. So sometimes having someone that is completely out of that inner circle but knows you well as a person can be very relaxing for the mind, and actually brings you a step forward again.
And when you talk about relaxing for the mind as well, when you are away from the sport, when you are taking time away from the sport, whether that's at home in Girona or in the Netherlands or in Ireland, your favourite place on earth, obviously, County Clare.
I really love it.
Yeah.
Up the banner.
Up the banner. Away from sport, what do you do to relax and to switch off your brain? And I imagine that it can be quite difficult to switch off for the most times anyway. Even with your phone turned off, there's still so many constant distractions in our lives that, like, so what does Youri do when he just wants to go and chill out and he just wants to ignore the world? What do you do?
So one of the things I really like is to see a result. So even if it's like now with the new apartment, if I get like an IKEA box in and the end, like after an hour later, I see that IKEA furniture standing up, I'm like, oh, nice thing. So it's the same with cooking. Like, I love cooking. My dad's been a chef. He's not anymore, but like, when you get a triplet and you have to work like 60, 70 hours a week in a restaurant, it's just impossible. But like, he and my mom as well, they gave us a lot of knowledge about cooking on a very young age. So like, there is nothing that my brother and sister and I don't eat. Like, we eat everything. At least we try it. So like, that's how we've been raised at home. And I really like cooking. So I have a girlfriend as well who really likes food. So that makes it sometimes easy as well. Like, at the end of the day, when I'm really want to try off, the most important thing for me is to like make Imogen in a way smile, because we have nice food on the table and good vibes. So like, that is for me one thing I really like to turn off. On the other hand as well, like, we are very lucky here that we have a beach close by. So sometimes going for that little dip in the sea or being out in the nature. But I do really like my sports as well. So sometimes I just go on my bike or go for a run without any watch or any, just clean my mind. Like, not having a session or a purpose to do it. Just, I need to come back home better than I went. That has been, yeah.
When you look at your career in general, what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it?
So I think a career always goes in phases, and as well, because we and young athletes at the moment, we kind of start already when we're teens. So there are like two kind of timelines. The first timeline is your biological timeline. So actually becoming from a little boy, a teen, from a teen, a man, and from a man, like a mature, full-grown person that I am probably now. But next to that is your athlete timeline as well. And I think with all those phases in your biological timeline, you go through difficult challenges. But I think the most difficult part in my career has been when I broke up with the federation, because I was all left alone. And then I have two guys in the foundation that supported me that I told earlier about. And they always ask me the question, do you want it or do you want it as well? So like, for example, like, do I really want to be the best triathlete in the world, or do I really want to be the best triathlete next to being a nice chef, loving to be around my, like, do you want that as well, or do you really want it? And with that question, they kind of sent me to Girona. And then after a couple of weeks, I figured out, like, no, I really, really want this. And then from that moment on, it like, my biological timeline started to catch up with my athlete timeline. I when I felt I was maturing on my age, I kind of start maturing as well as athlete. So, but the first and most important thing for me was to actually have a team around me that 100% believes in me and our process and our pathway. So like, no matter what happens, if we have a 14th place in Switzerland or a win in Singapore. At the end of the day, the goal is very clear, and the way how we want to do it is very clear. Only the blank spots along the road, they're going to be filled in by my performances on race day. So I think, yeah, it's kind of starting your own company from being in a federation that's safe kind of haven, like you have your swim times book, you have your coach, you have your standard things, you have your training group, to being like creating my own structure, finding my own swimming times, being in a financial stress situation all the time, to actually have a team of maybe more than 10 people around me that are like really want to make me the best athlete they can be and bring their expertise into the team is maybe that beginning phase was maybe the most challenging thing. But I'm so thankful that I had the right people around me that guided me towards the right decisions. But that brings me back on what the guys from the foundation said. Like, do you want it or do you want it as well? Because in that process towards like where I'm now, I really chose that I wanted it several times to be at the moment where I'm now.
And I think as well, not only do you have to choose that you want it, but you have to believe that you can get it.
I believe that I could win Singapore, and I did it. I maybe did not much believe that I could win Switzerland in the end, and I didn't. So it all starts with like, how bad do I want it, or do I want it as well? And that is really a quote that I keep reminding myself a lot about it.
It's a really good quote.
Yeah.
How bad do I want it, or do I want it as well?
I have a little notebook with quotes that his name is Rob gave me, and there are some amazing quotes in it. Like the first quote he said when I came at that foundation was like, "Trust the process, and the result will take care of it." And I was like, "You're just an old man. What are you saying?" Like I the only thing for me matters is result. And then actually slowly started like telling me more things about the process, and actually I got interested in it. And now when I have a period where it doesn't go so well, I think like, yeah, but I'm not chasing the process, I'm chasing the result, and that is never a good option. So like, yeah, I have a lot of very wise people around me that make me in a very quiet and calm, stable place at times. But I have to say, sometimes for the team as well, for me, spinning Singapore was as well like, oh, and now we're actually there. Like, oh, and now we have to see how Youri is adapting to this situation. So it's a constant day-to-day learning process every single day. And I'm thankful I can do it.
And can I ask, are your brother and sister,
Yeah.
are they sporty as well? Do they get involved in sport?
My brother really loves gaming, so that's like the only sport he does is FIFA on the couch. Jokes aside, no. My sister, so my brother and I, we did athletics and football together. And my brother was maybe a better athlete, but he had, from the three of us, the most physical problems after our birth. So like until he was becoming a teen or even, yeah, a man, he had some difficulties with his weight and some difficulties with strength at sometimes, or things were going well and then he got like knocked out by some kind of virus and he had to go to the hospital. So it kind of pushed him a bit away from being an athlete. And my sister, she really loves to do running. She did some swimming. Hopefully she's going to sign up for a triathlon. I said to her as well, like, if you sign up for a triathlon, you're pretty sure that you're the most like well-dressed athlete with the nicest bikes and the helmets and the wetsuits. So like, yeah, Imogen did her first triathlon and she showed up in the brand new De Boer wetsuit. Like,
and won the race.
The girl never had a wetsuit in her life, and now she has the best, probably one of the best wetsuits in the world. They are very sporty, but on a different level than I am, and that is fine, and they're happy with that. But when it comes to me racing, they maybe wanted more for me than I sometimes wanted for myself. So, but they have their own challenges in life. Like my sister worked very hard to get her degree in Dutch writing and national and history. My brother is a nurse and he does it very well, but like we all three came on the ride that we belong to, and we all had to work very hard for it. But I think when you work very hard for something, the reward is even bigger at the end.
That's very true. Speaking of working hard for something, Imogen is racing at Ironman 70.3 Cascais. How is she going? How's the training going?
Her training is going quite well, actually, for someone who had such a a horrible life-changing accident. She's really running well, and it's stable. Like it's a stable week to week. Like she goes for her runs a week, and you kind of still see that. Like I'm absolutely amazed by it, because if I would be an athlete that I would be retired as she is now, I would definitely not do efforts uphill somewhere ever again, because I hate kind of love those sessions. But she's still doing it. She's doing efforts and everything. So there's still that kind of athlete mindset behind it that probably won't change either. So
And so are you coaching her, or is she got a rush?
no. I like when Imogen and I got together, we really agreed, first of all, that we never train together. And second of all, that we just leave each other in their training or their process as we think it's best. Because I think when you're gonna mess up those things, you're gonna have a very boring evening on the couch in the end.
That's true.
Because if you train all the time together, what are you talking about after your session then? So yeah, we leave each other in our own careers. And as well, like now with Imogen going a different path, like after retirement, like all kinds of doors are opening for her. And it's very fascinating to see as well that like there is a, like, for me, triathlon is my whole life at the moment, and I completely dedicate 100% to it. But actually seeing her that there's as well life after it, I should not think about it yet, but for her it's super important, and she's developing in that every day. So yeah, it's a nice way of seeing life as well, a bit from the other side.
We do have some audience questions that have come in through our socials. So Rob Dwyer asks, if Youri was to stop triathlon, would he take up hurling?
Actually, yes, I think I would. So I was playing with a slitter and a hurley, the house of my girlfriend. So like the parents of my girlfriend. And all of a sudden I was hitting the slitter and we haven't found it until now. So, okay, maybe not winning the All Ireland. Let's say that is only for the greatest in the sport. But I would definitely maybe sign up for like a local team. I think I'm still quite a lot behind on skill, but I have time to catch up.
You
But I love
absolutely
it.
do.
It's so dynamic. It's so fast. It's so honest and brutal. I really like the sport. It's it really is
It's
something
very cool.
yeah.
Giorgio asks, what is your favorite gel?
226 is high fructose banana flavor.
Very particular
I
the flavor, Youri.
Yeah, I'm very picky when it comes to my flavor. Like, I don't know, gels are not the best to take. Like, it's not that I'm sitting on the couch like, hey, let's have a gel tonight. Like, they are very, yeah, some can be very rough. I always try to have like the most natural taste, but on the other hand as well, like it should taste a little bit.
Nice.
So yeah, I really love those gels. So yeah,
Okay.
that's my favorite gel.
Bruce asks, what's your dream achievement in your athletic career?
So there are two achievements I really want. I want to win 70.3 Worlds and Hawaii in the same year. That's the first thing. And that makes probably me the first Dutch ever winner of Ironman Hawaii, if nothing crazy happens this year with the Dutch guys going. And the second
Hang on a second
achievement
now.
is,
Sorry.
yeah,
Rewind there. So you haven't actually done an Ironman yet,
no, I have
which
not
means
done
that you would
it
have to do an Ironman next year or the year
or the
after
year
to
after.
qualify. Oh, I
Yeah.
see how the wheels are turning in your eyes now.
I'm 25, so I'm turning 26. So if I would like to win Kona, which will probably be not this year because I'm not doing an Ironman and I'm not planning on it, that would make me doing an Ironman in 2 years. And I think that could be the right time. Again, I don't know how it goes. So like I still have like multiple years, and if I really don't fancy going long, then maybe not. It is a dream of mine, but on the other hand, when I'm 32, I can still win Hawaii. So like we don't really try to pick a date on it, but on the other hand, if you look a bit like logical, 28 would be a nice time to
Hey,
actually go for it. That's the first goal. And the second goal is I want to inspire the next generation to be the next Youri Keulen or the next triathlete. I want people to dress up to school as a triathlete and then with my name on the suit.
like Super Yuri.
Yeah, something like that. No, I would really love to like give something back to the community that the community could like, yeah, get a boost from, like make
Yeah.
the triathlon more into the international media, make triathlon more possible to view for like that people actually say, oh, we go to see a triathlon and not a hurling match.
Well, I suppose when you look at the crowds of people that turned up to watch all three triathlon
Paris.
races in Paris,
Yeah.
it was
Amazing.
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I had total FOMO at not
Yeah.
being there. I'm so sorry I did not
Yeah.
go to France. I really, really am. It's the biggest mistake I've made this year was to not go to the Olympics.
LA is a bit far, isn't it?
Oh, it's not that far.
It's a long bike ride.
It's a long bike ride. Well, we've 4 years to get ready for it.
Yeah.
Considering what you've just said about leaving a legacy behind and inspiring a new generation. And when you look at the new triathletes coming through or young triathletes coming through, the next question comes from Yahiv, who asks, what is the best tip for young triathletes?
First of all, enjoy it. So like you should not train or try to train because the people around you expect that from you. You should really like enjoy it. And especially at a young age, like I'm not sure what age they're talking about, but let's say 15, 16 years old, you should really wake up and have a bit of a plan, but like go as it feels like. If it's sunny and you want to go for 3 hours on the bike, go for 3 hours on the bike. If it's raining and you think after an hour I want to go home, that's fine as well. As long as you kind of get consistency over a longer period of time. That's the first thing. Second thing is I would really try to find a triathlon club or a local cycling club or community that or a swimming club that kind of creates a safe environment for you to train at. So we were at the with the PTO in London at a community event, and they had more than 80 kids doing duathlons and triathlons over London. And actually that was because they said it was at Herne Hill. And they said like it's unsafe for them to ride outside. So we kind of created this so they can actually train here. And I would really see if there's something around that, or maybe your dad goes on a cycling club on a Sunday with a couple of guys and girls to ride the bike. Like join, like just have fun and see if it's something for you. And then eventually, if you really come back to the question you want it as well or you want it, if you really want it, then eventually you will kind of figure out your way how to do it. But like, don't be afraid to ask pro athletes for advice. Don't be afraid to go and see pro athletes race at races to learn from it, watch videos about it, how we do things. So you don't have to make the mistakes or you don't have to learn the same time, the same lessons as that we've learned. Like you can kind of try to speed it up by just watching pro athletes do what they do.
And I think that's sound advice, not just for young athletes coming through, but actually for the age group athletes at any age.
100%.
You know, just actually getting out and having fun, enjoying the sport is so hugely important. And then finding a club or finding a group of people allows you to enjoy the sport more because not only have you people to train with, but you've got the social side of it as well, which is also hugely
important. And a bit the safety side as well. Like it's safer to ride a bit in a group than in alone nowadays. Like a lot can happen on the road and sadly enough, a lot is happening on the road. Just first of all, make sure that it's safe, because if it's not safe, you're not going to enjoy it either.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah. On a brighter note, we're moving towards the end of the chat here. So 2 questions. One, who has had the biggest influence on your career to date? That's the first question.
Well, that's very difficult to answer, because if I say that person, then other person's got to be like left in the dark a bit. I think, yeah, first of all, my parents. I think every pro athlete you ask, or let's say 99.9%, they will say my parents. Yeah, without me getting financially support from them to actually try to achieve my dreams, is like they didn't. My mom went for 2 jobs in the COVID period to pay my rent, like so that I didn't have to get a job in the COVID period and I could train. It's like, yeah, well, I could never imagine that. Like that was something so warm and so, like, I'm so thankful for that, and I try to pay them back like when I pay flights for them or hotels for them when they come to my races, they always feel horrible that I did that, but actually for me it's like a thank you all the time. So my parents, of course, because hey, I'm their son, like they made me the person who I am. But I think I'm just so insanely thankful for my team around me, and that's from my nutritious, my physio, like to everyone who was involved, even Imogen who was involved in the process. Like I think all those people inspire me, but they let me inspire them as well in a way. So like it all brings the best up, and I think not a lot of athletes have it the way I have with a team around them, but that is probably the way it works for me, and that's maybe my strength compared to others. that where they have strengths compared to me. So yeah, I think it would be very difficult to say one person. I think it's a whole team, and as they say, it takes a village. Well, mine is not a village; it's a metropole. I think at the moment.
And then finally, of everything that you've achieved so far in life, not just in sport but in life, what are you most proud of?
To take the risk, sometimes say, like, give your big middle finger sometimes and just say, like, no, this is what I want. Take the risk. Like one of the quotes that guy from the foundation said as well is, take the risk or lose the chance. And I really took the risk, and I'm so happy that I didn't lose the chance. So I think from following my own path, jumping in a very scary, lonely world at the moment, and like holding on to like a dream that I set myself as a little kid. And as a little kid, my dream was to be a professional athlete. And now, as a bit more mature kid as I am now, is to become the best triathlete in the world. So like actually committed to my dream that I have, and that I never let myself have doubts of if it would be possible, more doubts the way it was possible. But I think I'm really, really proud of that. And I think that's a lesson that I've learned, and I'm still learning, that I will carry on for the rest of my life, and not only my career.
Well, that is a perfect answer to the end of our chat today. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Youri Keulen. I hope to see you in New Zealand in a few weeks. It won't be that long until we get down there. And who knows, maybe we'll be calling you across the finish line as the VinFast Ironman 70.3 World Champion for 2024.
But if it is, you have to do it then. You have to call my name and say it.
It would be my pleasure to do it, but it may be out of my control.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. If you would like to hear more great episodes of the podcast, be sure to check them out on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow all of our activities and podcasts on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. If you have any feedback or guest suggestions, please email me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. I really would love to hear from you. Until next time, thanks for listening. Stay safe, keep smiling, and remember to look for fun and adventure in every day.